So how do we solve radical equations? The first step is to isolate the radical on one side. To eliminate the radical, raise each side of the equation to the power equal to the index. And we talked a lot about index yesterday, and we'll talk about it again today as well, because understanding the index is very important. So what the index does is it lets us see how many times we have to multiply something. We'll go over that in a minute. And then solve the resulting polynomial equation. So we're not done after the second step. We still have to solve it as a polynomial. So let's make sure that we're taking notes, and let's look at our first example. Alright, so before we actually look at an example of how to solve, let's make sure we understand what a radical expression or a radical equation is. So here is my radical expression. All right, and then we'll look at the radical equation. A radical expression, for example, is this: third root of x to the fifth power. Right? Now here, this radical has three parts. This is part 1, this is part 2, and this right here, this right here is part 3. This little 3 on the left side is called the index. The 5 is the power of whatever is inside. What is the inside called? The inside is called radicand. So this 5 is the power of the radicand. And this symbol right here that we're used to calling square root, it's not actually square root. This is called the radical. Now on Friday we're going to have a quiz. You can bet that this diagram over here and these labelings, they are going to be on that quiz. All right, you'll be asked to identify each part. So make sure that you remember this and you memorize and you look at it. This is pretty straightforward stuff. So this is a radical expression. So what is a radical equation? Well, here's a radical equation. Let's say that I have something like this. Now here, this is an equation because there is an equal sign. Equation means there is an equal sign. And you're trying to figure out what value of x makes this equation true. So just like any equation, we're trying to figure out what value of x makes this equation true. Right, so that's what we're learning today, but it's extremely important that we know the parts. Right, so here's what I want you to do. Once you're done copying this, once you're done taking notes, I want you to, in your notebook, draw another radical expression, something different from this but similar, and then label it without looking at your notes, without looking at it, and see if you can label it correctly by yourself. All right, so take a picture draw it, redraw it, whatever you got to do, but you need to remember, you need to memorize these parts. All right, Mr. Wilson, let's make sure that everybody is making another a copy of this. Why is that paper moving in the back by itself? That's kind of scary. Sorry. It looked like an episode from Ghost Hunters. Alrighty. So let's make sure that we make a copy of this and then label it. Alright. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do that, and then we'll look at our first example.